Welcome back to Bros in a Landfill, the only show where one member watches the anime, then shoves it down the other member's normie throats. Your hosts for this week are the normie Hunk Billion.
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, I'll watch a couple animes here and there, but I feel like I'm a relative normie. I'll take it.
And totally not normie Trybien, who watches anime, well, he says he does, works a full-time job and is married. Yeah.
Just despicable.
We know who the normie here is. Yeah. God, such a weeb. God, I've got no life whatsoever. So, anime is a thing. So
it is.
Usually every like anime season, I tend to do a roundup, follow up of all the shows that I finished. But I'm gonna try to mix things up here. Start talking about like the shows I'm watching this season, then go into the shows that I finished last season, just to keep things a bit more brisk. I don't have as much. I mean, that's not true, but like I don't have as much to say about last season as in I didn't finish as many shows last season. So hopefully this can pad for time a little bit. But also, there's more pressing matters that I think most people are more interested in is the new stuff this season, which includes the only show that Lunch has also watched. I assume that's the only show he's also watched this new season is My Hero Academia Season 4.
All right.
Which we've already kind of shared our hot takes on in the Bros in the Landfill Discord. You can find that in the link in the description below. Yeah, we share our opinions about these things sometimes beforehand. So, yeah, I'm shilling our Discord. Anyways, yes, Lunch, My Hero Academia Season 4, let's go.
My Hero Academia is back. I've got kind of mixed feelings on this franchise as a whole. There have been parts of it that I've like really, truly loved without reservation, and then parts bummed me out, and now I don't care as much. I wasn't really into season 3, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Mostly because I think this show is kind of like a problem with. I think there's not really enough downtime. I think it. Like there's something epic happening every episode to the point where like it can feel a bit melodramatic and. Or a bit formulaic, and so I've kind of come in with guarded expectations, but I am enjoying this so far.
I think the show also has a bit of an identity problem because it wants to be Deku's story, but it also wants to be the story of the class as well. And I think it really struggles to find that balance a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it's a bit Deku-centric all the time, where like I think he's great, but I also want to see how everyone's doing. Like part of the appeal of this show is that, or like on a very basic level, is that it's like superhero Hogwarts, and so like I want to see what everyone's up to and how everyone's growing. Some of my favorite stuff is when everyone's in the class together and you have their dynamic and
well, I think that also kind of goes back to where the show's biggest faults are, and this is why I think the back half of season 3 especially kind of faltered. Is that it's trying to juggle too many stories all at once rather than every story having its time of day. So when we had the back half of season 3 with that like license arc, you had a bunch of like everybody split it off into like different like few man cells, and like each episode was like kind of focusing on multiple ones of them like throughout a single episode. And because of that, like you had a bunch of these stories going on at the same time, but it was hard to have like any real focus on any individual story. The narrative and pacing felt very disjointed. So while we were going through like the story of the entire class, it wasn't very focused whatsoever.
No, it felt like everybody got like a breadcrumb, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's like you either have a story with the entire class, and actually this is what like last time you guys like when you guys talked about My Hero Academia, like when I wasn't on, you guys brought up Naruto, where I think Naruto actually works in this regard, is that each of the mission structures are done with small teams. So you have this big cast of characters, but the actual like story arcs that take place only involve a couple of those characters at a time, rather than having like 5 stories going on with 5 groups of characters like all at once. So comparing this back to like My Hero Academia, I think the best parts of My Hero Academia is when it's telling a focused, coherent story. Like So like, let's say like the beginning of the story where Neku, that's Deku is trying to focus specifically on like getting strong enough to go to school. We have that. I think the whole like competition arc in the second season was because it was all focused on one thing thrusting forward. Like, yes, you had a bunch of individual characters having little arcs because all those arcs were colliding with each other and clashing with each other, and you had like these specific like fights going on. It allowed for like a singular story to be focused on at any given time.
Yeah, well,
And then,
yeah, because like the thing in season 3 where they threw the balls at each other, I'm forgetting the name, the exam. It's such an inherently chaotic like story concept. Like in the sports festival, like there was a lot more structure to it. It was very much one thing at a time, especially when it got onto like the 1v1 fights. And so like, yeah, you could focus on whatever was happening with the characters for that segment, rather than like completely just flashing for 2 seconds between everyone.
Yeah, it's like I think like a better way to have done that would be maybe to just show like an individual story, go through the whole thing, and just do like a procedural set of procedural sets of flashbacks to show like what everybody was doing during that time, rather than interspersing, because it made it very hard to follow or care because it slowed the story to
I just think the idea of like some kind of competition with like 100 people in it is like just generally not a great idea. Like Dragon Ball Super is something similar where there's like 80 people and it's like, what the, like, who even cares? It's just nonsense. It's just like shit flying around.
But I contend to the fact that one of the best arcs in Naruto is the Chunin exams, which is basically 100 people clashing with each other. You have the whole like, but the reason why it was so good is because you were only really focusing on Naruto's squad at the beginning.
That's all good. Yeah, I think sticking with just his character for most of it is a good idea.
So all of your emotional weight was focused on these people at the beginning, and then you get to the whole like tournament arc of it where you have these individual fights, but at the same time it's one fight at a time, meaning that you had like each fight was its own little story and its own little arc. Where if it was handled like that part of My Hero Academia was, you would have like 3 fights going on at the same time, flashing between them, and it'd be completely incomprehensible to follow.
I think the sports festival and the Chunin exams are very much like, it's very easy to draw parallels between them. I think both of them are great.
It's actually sort of funny because like the Chunin exams is more of the equivalent of the license exam, but that's the hilarious part.
In terms of like lore, but like in terms of a story, the sports festival is basically the same thing. The sports festival tournaments it's like peak.
But those types of
My Hero Academia.
Like those reasons why the structured like sports tournaments sort of work is because each little interaction in a sport is a story. That's why sports anime are so popular and so much fun to watch. Yeah, but when you're dealing with something like the license exam, is like it was so much unfettered chaos that story thing like every little interaction was like could get no focus because there was so much happening that they had to fit in with such a limited amount of time. Like there was some great stuff in there that was completely overshadowed by a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. So that's one of the problems with My Hero Academia later on. That I'm hoping that this new season doesn't fall into as much. And so far with season 4, we've gotten like I think that's a self-contained like little fluff episode to begin with, which I really appreciated. And it seems like the rest of the season is going to focus very much on Deku as he joins this new agency and stuff. And while I prefer seeing the whole cast, if it's picking a path and staying there, then I guess that's kind of okay.
But I think that's part of the thing is like the My Hero Academia's like biggest weakness is also its biggest strength, is that it has such a large cast of interesting, relatable, like unique, colorful, fun characters. So you want to see all those characters, but at the same time, if you want to see all those characters, you don't have the time to see them. It's not that type of show. Like if it was a slice of life, like, oh yes, this is just every episode is just having fun with these characters, that can work. But like in this type of like shonen narrative where you have this progressively like more intense like narrative of these characters getting stronger over time, that's partially why Naruto fell into like bullshit. Was because you had so many characters trying to get so strong over this massively long
Well,
story with these
I
immense
think the show
stakes.
needs more slice of life. It needs less
Well, they,
it needs less epic speeches
yeah,
and less like heroic standoffs, which are all cool.
because
But one of my
but
favorite
that's what
episodes is when they're
but
picking
that's
the
what
hero names, or like I like it when they're trying to figure out what their special moves are, and they're all like clicking, like
yeah, I know
like if they
exactly
could just let
because
these characters bounce
that's
off
what
each
that's
other, or the home the room decorating contest, like that's a good way to use these characters. I feel like the way that something epic is always happening in My Hero Academia to be almost a bit greedy in terms of the writer. It's like I just want all the
oh
epic
yeah.
shit all the time.
But I think that's also why this like start of this new season like has been a bit better and a bit more of a fresh of breath air. Well, fresh of breath air. Wow, way to go, Try with your words. It's been a bit more of a breath of fresh air because the like we're 3 episodes in and like the stakes have immediately been dropped down to just personal level shit rather than oh yes, big conflict stakes. Like it's clearly setting some things up, but it's slowed itself down quite a bit from the license exam.
I do really like the Actually, this is seems like maybe a weird example to bring up a thing I liked because it is a disjointed alternate story, but I really like the bit with the villains where they're like hanging out in like some fucking
Oh
in the
yeah,
middle of the night
but that's because the
somewhere,
villains have
and
it's because the villains have great chemistry and villains have great personalities too. But whenever they're most of the time when they're on screen, they're just being villains rather than being people with
yeah,
issues.
I think that whole scene might actually be my favorite part of this new season so far. Where
Yeah,
I guess I guess I'm okay with a little bit of cutting away from like the main focus, but um,
oh yeah.
like I don't know, I really like it was some great world building. I think that like there's now a power vacuum in the villain zone,
Well,
and it's like there are
well, I
multiple
think
parties that
well,
want to get to the top, and like it was also very
well,
tense, and like it just ended in a
like
pretty
I think
dark
that's
way.
well, that's part of the thing with like My Hero Academia in general is due to its Western influences, like you can see that the way that the villains are kind of structured is more from a Western influence, where the each villain has more of an individual with this personality, this whatnot. Like I think it's something like Batman, where Batman is probably like some of the most iconic villains in like history, just because of just how they're like all written. They all have like these like backstories. Like there's a reason. Like they're fucked up individuals, but there's a reason why they're there, and they all have these like unique like gimmicks, personality quirks, traits, whatever. And I think My Hero Academia really leans into that as well, and takes inspiration from that sort of thing. But it spends so much time with them just being villains doing bad things rather than seeing what makes them tick.
Yeah, there's a yeah. I think they're doing a good job of actually leaning into that now and showing us a bit more of them. Um, I think its villains are okay. We talked about My Hero Academia a couple episodes ago, and Dizzy was criticizing it, and I think it was hard to argue with him in the moment because he
Yeah, I
didn't
know.
like
It's
know
hard to do that.
everything, and also I hadn't watched the show in a
Mhm.
while, so like I didn't know what he had misunderstood
Yeah.
and what he hadn't. But I think the
Mhm.
villains are okay. I think like I don't think that their motivations are at all incomprehensible, like Dizzy was saying. Like
Yeah, no. I no, I
I think it's
I
pretty
if
obvious.
I think if there's any problem with the villains, it's just there's too goddamn
There
many
are a
of
lot
them.
of them. They're all
Like,
kind of like just cool
but it's
character
the same.
designs.
Yeah, but it's the same problem with it's the same problem with like the heroes in general. Is that there's so many cool designs, personalities, quirks, ideas that like it's kind of they things get overshadowed. It's hard to appreciate any one thing or anything to get any focus because it's like this big like painting of just like colorful dots. Like it's hard to appreciate any specific dot because there's so many colorful
Yeah,
ones. Like there might be a bigger one or a bit more interesting one, but there's so many colorful dots in the
it
cast
really is a
that
bit of a double-edged
like
sword. Or like like it's
yeah.
part of what makes the universe really cool to get into. Um, but yeah, I will say I think the one big success I think of the villains is that I really like the whole thing about disrupting hero society or whatever, where it's like they're
Yeah.
testing people's confidence in their heroes and everything. And I think the way that all like because I rewatched season 3 a little while ago, and I like
Mhm.
how it's like, oh yeah, like everything they're doing, like they lose every time, but they're chipping away at the heroes over time,
Yeah.
making them suspect each other and everything, and like by the end of it, you're like, oh shit, like they're actually winning in a weird way.
Well,
I think that was
yeah,
cool.
because the motive, like Dizzy was like complaining about the overall motivations of the villains because it's not entirely like present if you're not really focusing in on the story or you're not saying the right parts of it. Because the main thrust of like the bad guys, like or at least the people controlling the bad guys, it's to chip away and remove that hope that All Might has instilled because you have this like backstory and this with All Might and and All for One, and it's in a lot of ways it's more of like this like it's more of this petty grudge revenge story for the
Well,
villains.
it is.
Where
I don't know. It's multiple things. Like for
it's
for All
but,
for One
but
or whatever his fuck his name is.
Yeah, but,
it is about It's
yeah,
a big revenge thing.
yeah. Well,
but
that's what.
for the
Well, that's
the other characters, for a lot of the, I think for most of the villains, it's really just about like government versus anarchy or
it's a lot
something,
of
you know?
it's a lot of it's a lot of personal things. It's a lot of motivations coming together that are all under one guise, which is All for One, which is who's controlling Hand Mask Guy. Because Hand Mask Guy has the same motivation basically as All for One. Just he's been.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I agree with you on
brainwashed.
your take about the villains, which is
I know.
funny that
I
we've
don't
gotten
know.
here. I'm just saying that Dizzy was wrong, and there it's actually clear cut. But what I think it's about, it's
Well, no.
like, and I'm sure I'm not going to super contradict you here, but I definitely think the focus is more like there's the grudge match and there's like they hate each other and stuff, but
Well, let's well.
what it's about is like
What I'm sure.
this kind of weird like oppressive celebrity culture where it's like,
Yeah, but going back to the All Might thing, All Might is the celebrity. Like he is the celebrity. Like a lot of the reason that All Might becomes the center focus of all of the villain stuff, other than other than specifically All for One and Hand Mask Guy being various more specifically like we're doing this because we hate All Might. Like a lot of it, like the people go along with it because All Might is like the symbol of peace, and if All Might gets taken down, it creates the doubt within
that's
everybody.
what I'm saying.
So
All Might isn't the underlying motivation, but he's like they hate a lot of them hate him, sure, but like it's
well, he's the underlying motivation of Hand Mask Guy. Like it's a lot of motivations that are all come together, which is let's take down like this. Like
but like he doesn't hate All
are.
Might for no reason. He hates him because like he
No,
feels
not,
like left behind
but
by
no,
him. You know, like he feels
well,
like this like.
Well, none of them are doing things for one reason because all these characters are multifaceted, but there's so many characters and the story is sometimes so hard to follow that everything does feel like watered down. Like, why are these guys doing things? Then you actually look at it like, oh, this guy has X traumatic backstory. This guy created a bunch of clones of himself and then doesn't even know if he's the real version of himself.
Yeah, but I think I personally feel like overall, it's pretty clear that it's like about freedom and not having like another class of people that are like just designed to fucking keep you down.
Well, like I think we're arguing over two completely different things. You're looking at the greater picture of like what like the movement is, and I'm looking at the individual reasons why people are inside this movement.
Well, I don't like, think I don't think what you're saying is wrong, but like
and I don't think what you're saying.
Okay,
well,
why are we arguing?
Why are we having this argument?
I'm just trying to say what I think. My interpretation is the more important takeaway from the villains as an overall group, because like what you're saying, because you're saying like, you know, all these characters, like it's kind of hard to really like appreciate any one of them particularly. They all kind of like take focus away from each other. It's a bit messy, but I think they're quite unified as a collective. In terms of what their overall goal is. Like, they all have different reasons to have more or less the same goal.
Yeah. I mean, it's which
I think is a cool goal, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, well, if we want to get into pseudo politics, My Hero Academia does one thing like pretty good, in that it shows like how and like why people end up going into like these extreme groups. Like, and then like also you have a bit of like the bit of the celebrity culture is like, oh yes, we're gonna become heroes, and like there's a lot of clout behind being the heroes that take down the villains. This is not the time or podcast to do so because we have we have not a lot, but we have other shows to talk about. But yeah, I do think if we want to talk like analogies or whatever, My Hero Academia is a very interesting has some very interesting parallels to like modern Twitter culture and like modern like
That's
internet
not
mob
where I thought you were going to go at
culture
all.
or collapse.
I thought you got.
Yeah, well,
I was so sure you were going to talk
I said,
about police brutality, which is like obviously
Well,
the most reasonable parallel. But go on. What do you got? What do you got?
Well, it's more like cloud culture where you have these people who like within these groups that promote do these sorts of justice, and then like they spur on the followers because they have this celebrity status. You can see something like that even just with the heroes or with Hero Killer Stain.
Yeah.
And then like the villains, there's a lot of like, oh, you have like these ideological, like you have like these ideologues who like stand as the pinnacle of these things that do these great things that the people that believe in their message look up to and follow and try to do.
Right, and everyone has their own like responsibility with their I don't like their.
And the other thing I think I really like about it is it clearly shows that there are multiple motivations for people to be under these clouds of these groups. Like, and like with the heroes, you have people who do it because they genuinely believe in justice. You have people who do it for money. You have people who do it for fame and attention. With the villains, like especially with the Hero Killer Stain, you have people who genuinely believe in Hero Killer's message. You have the people who are just under that guise just to cause chaos or for their own motivations. Like, that's something that I really like about My Hero Academia is it shows that you can have a bunch of people under one flag, like one group or one label, with completely different motivations. Like you have good actors, you have bad actors, and like it's pretty like apt to like how like actual like groups work. Like in a way.
Well, I mean, like, what's your? I mean, to get into the police, I guess, like, you just have to like be able to pass a bunch of physical and technical exams, and not obviously be a psychopath, or just not obviously be a psychopath. So, it's pretty similar. Then there you go with your status as like a protector of the community or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's the same. It's like you can even say that like with yes, the obvious like you have the obviously parallel with the police brutality and the police structure, but I think like even like in a greater sense, like if that was just it, then you wouldn't have like all these villains with all these different motivations going into these groups. Like I think the Hero Killer Stain wouldn't be as like powerful or meaningful if it was just about police brutality, because then there wouldn't be all this attention to detail with all these different motivations being under the Hero Killer Stain's ideology. Like, I think the police brutality is a part of that, but it's not the whole big picture.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, but there's still that question of like, what's what is a hero, or what's a real protector, or whatever.
Well, you can play that like just within social politics as well, and like on Twitter and like other social media or Discord or whatever. It's like who's the real heroes, like, and who like, and it's so easy to focus on like the bad actors of both sides. It's like the villains focus on the bad actors of the heroes' side, and that's why that's how they justify their existence.
Well, ultimately, we haven't talked very much about season 4. But to be fair, there's not a lot of season 4. We're 3 episodes in.
No, I
like how we're sort of focusing on particular character. I like what they're doing with the villains. I find that weird fetish tickling machine to be weird.
What? That's a sexual harassment complaint.
Yeah, it just I get that it's meant to be like just like physical comedy that is like purposely dramatic, but like it really looks like some crazy kind of bondage thing.
I'm surprised. Like I honestly, like, I haven't like been in like discussions of the show or on Twitter and whatnot, but I am surprised I haven't seen like any people like being like sharing this on me like, oh, My Hero Academia problematic. or anything. At least,
well,
like,
it's
even,
roughly
like,
equivalent
ironically,
to,
like
yeah.
even ironically,
No, there was a big drama when the first episode came out, and a character in the intro has like bigger boobs than in the manga, and someone was mad about it.
Oh, of course. Well, the people like that's the thing. Like people get mad over so many things, and people also take like satire and irony in like different ways. So it's like I at the very least, I'm surprised that like there hasn't been like an ironic take on like the tickler machine thing.
But
Like, it's weird.
No,
Like I'm not lying, it's weird.
It's pretty tame for My Hero Academia. It's one of the other things
that's fair.
that is not great about the show. The super uncomfortable sexual humor of like 14 or 15-year-olds.
Yeah. But let's change subjects.
That's a downer.
I'll quickly beat through the other two shows that I'm watching this season. That are sequels continuing on. So we got the new season of Sword Art Online. I've only watched 2 episodes of it so far. Production values are still better than expected. Sword Art Online season 2 of season 3 starts off with Kirito being like an invalid with his like mind destroyed, and it's immediately like more interesting than before because you have Kirito like just having like
his anything or talk.
Like he has this like he doesn't like he's like just making like grunting noises as like he's trying to reach out to his sword because he wants
holy shit
because of the effect Sword Art Online season 3 part 2 like starts off pretty
that's
dark.
Hardcore, dude. That's like starting like the new episode of Dragon Ball Super and Goku has cancer or something like. Like the main character is just grunting, trying to summon his sword. Oh my god, dude!
Yeah, and then like he's being taken care of by like the waifu of Sword Art Online, Alicization, and she's a pretty like I like her. She's a pretty nice character. She's strong. She's a strong, independent woman who can take care of herself and an invalid man.
Wow.
But it's also still very uncomfortable because Asuna is still a thing in the real world. So Kirito's got this like sort of relationship with Alice. Like Alice clearly has feelings for him. Kirito is an invalid state. She sleeps with him. Like not in a sexual way, I don't think, but like they share a bed. And like it's all I can think about is Asuna's in the real world. And if she saw this, I don't want
well, I mean, he can't. It's not his fault. He can't even fucking move.
I know it's no, but like I'm talking about like the cat fight that would ensue.
Right. Oh, wow, like, dude, man, he's got mad game. Dude can't even talk, and he's got this chick on the bed with him. God damn it! I wish I was an anime protagonist.
I know. Sword Art, like it still amazes me just like how uncomfortable Sword Art Online can make things. Like
I mean, I'm convinced.
It's. Like he goes into he goes into this like he's forced into this game because his mind's destroyed by poison, and while in this game his mind gets further destroyed. So basically he's an invalid while like these orcs start attacking like the town.
Oh no! So what does he look like in real life?
Oh, he looks the same between the game and real life. He's got like black. He's like black hair, weeby looking freak.
Black haired
weeby
like,
really
looking freak. You don't have to bully the fucking characters. I'm just asking what he looks like.
He's Joe every protagonist.
Okay, got it.
He looks like every isekai protagonist because every isekai protagonist is trying to look like him.
Well, someone we can all relate to.
Anyways, that's like last comment. I still like the openings are still great. Sword Art Online Alicization still has like my favorite openings in Sword Art Online, so I can keep watching it just because of that. Moving on to Shokugeki no Soma season 4. Jesus Christ, what happened to the show?
I don't know what that is.
Like the Food Wars, the ones where like the Gordon Ramsay kitchen cook things off and then people have orgasms while eating.
Yeah, I think I've seen clips of this on Facebook. People post share it as like, what the fuck is anime?
Shokugeki no Soma is in general a great alternative sports drama where you have like but instead of like sports, it's food cook-offs and stuff. It does a whole like over the top hype, these like individual stories and whatnot. great characters. But Jesus fucking Christ, what happened to the production of this show? There's been this whole like arc of like bullshit where it's like, oh yes, the student council has voted to replace the president of the school. So now there's a guy who's like basically trying to make communist food. Like, oh, the only food allowed to eat at restaurants are the food that I say is good, basically.
Oh, what?
I don't know. It's more of an authoritarian. It's an authoritarian. Like, you got like this authoritarian coming in saying, yes, if you don't like agree with my cooking style, then I'll fucking like say I'm gonna fucking expel you because you're not following my cooking style, and then I'm gonna run every restaurant in the world out of business because like if they don't follow like my standards.
This
for cooking.
guy has a lot of power.
Yeah, he does. And like so like the whole like conceit of the show is turned from like cooking into like individual experimental
like
cooking to
fight the power.
Like, yeah, basically. But the biggest problem is we're now down to this whole like Team Shokugeki where you have a bunch like it's like a 10v10 cook-off of.
But no one is allowed to make
people,
anything
like,
other than mac and cheese. And if you don't make mac and cheese, you're expelled.
But you have like all like the rebels trying to like unexpel all the expelled people and trying to like say, yeah, we're going to be part of the student council now so we can get rid of that guy. And then you have like the current student council, which also has people replaced on the student council. Everybody who voted against the vote for the president was removed from the student council and replaced.
Damn.
So we are dealing with some dictator like stuff here. So there's a Team Shokugeki going on that started last season and is continuing on this season. And oh my god, is it so fucking slow? Like, because like each bout has like 3 chefs versus 3 chefs.
Okay.
And generally, this show is 1 chef versus 1 chef, and it's like this big competition off or compete off. But now you're having like three individual stories happening at the same time rather than 1 story. Because it's not even like, oh, these 3 chefs come together to make one thing. It's like, no, 3. Like each chef is making their own meal. They can help each other, but they're making their own meal. They're fending off against another person. And now, so we have this one bout going on, and like almost each episode is focusing on like an individual person taking part of the bout. And like this is like the 3rd bout, and we're like already next season in 4 episodes in, and it's so slow. The production's gone. The weird thing, the first season of Shokugeki Soma had some pretty cool and interesting production. Like, it was very, like, inventive and whatnot. But it just feels very uninspired, and it feels like, oh, we have to make this, so we have to make this. And I'd almost just be like, why am I watching anime when I can
I'm really,
this is one of those...
I'm not into anime that is like, with really boring composition and, like, you know, framing and all that. Like...
Which is a shame because the manga looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think a lot of anime just looks really flat because they're just trying to get it out there.
It's the first season. The first season looks great. Like it's not flat. It's not like it's got a lot of life and energy and personality to it. But now it just feels like the people making this don't want to make this.
Do you think maybe the guy who's like in charge of the school now and is like shutting down all the other interesting food is just trying to, you know, prevent as many orgasms from happening, like just during dinner time?
It'd be more interesting if that was. It'd be interesting if that was the case.
It's like, this is impractical. This is silly. It's inappropriate.
I forget the exact reason. I don't know if they've gone completely in it, but he's got some beef with people, and that's why he's doing it. Like he feels like he was like it's about like it has to do with Soma's dad being like cheated out of things, and so like for some reason like he's like, oh, now I have to control all the food in the world to make it a better place.
This sounds like.
But
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. This sounds like fucking nonsense. This sounds like
it is fucking nonsense. It's like
unfettered nonsense.
Well, but it's funny because like even like Soma's dad's like, yeah, like you're being ridiculous, and like he's like, no, I'm doing this for you. It's like, I don't want this. I'm doing this for you.
What are you talking about?
I know it's the story is the story has always been silly, but at least at the beginning it was like, oh, fun, like high schooler bullshit silly. Now it's like adult who never grew up bullshit.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Shokugeki no Soma season 4. I'm still gonna watch it, and whenever I get back to reading manga, I'm gonna continue reading the manga. But oof, major oof.
Yeah, I definitely am. Like, One Punch Man season 2 also made me think I'm just gonna read the manga instead.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on to shows that are continuing on from last season. I've got Dr. Motherfucking Stone. Jesus Christ, this show came out of nowhere. I mean, it didn't really come out of nowhere, but it's a considering it's a shonen, so it is somewhat of a breath of fresh air. It's not always the strongest, but it's a very satisfying watch. It's very sciency, like all of the like advancements and stuff. Like it's more about like, oh, can we get this science thing done in this amount of time, and like oh cool, like science bullshit, because we're in the do you know the conceit of Dr. Stone? I don't know if like
it's like
you've
some people, like, the world's ended or something, and there's like nothing around it. It's like, let's remake society. I'm a scientist, and you're a big dumb strong guy. Maybe is that it?
So yeah, Dr. Stone, like yeah, well basically, so it's basically everybody in the world gets turned to stone because of unknown reasons.
I got it.
Like thousands of years later, protagonist tough guy McGee and Science McGee, coincidentally are in the right circumstances for the cure of the stoning to they get cured being stoned because of coincidence,
because
yes,
stoned.
Okay. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, now we gotta remake society, but as things are going on, they're being chased by fucking like lions. So they're like, oh yes, we've got some of the stone stuff. Let's there's a guy over here that is like incredibly strong. We'll get him to save us from these lions. So they do that. He's a fucking monster, and he destroys the lions like with his bare hands.
Holy shit!
And then he's like. And that guy's like, yo, I don't want science to happen. Science leads to bullshit and to like people being unhappy and like adults like taking over the world. So yeah, we're gonna have a survival of the fittest thing. And like, science guy Senku's like, no, we're gonna have science because science is how we survive, man. Science is cool. Science is how we advance and stuff. So you have like this big like ideological two ideological groups deep, of primal society versus scientific society. And that's the entire conflict of the show. Things happen. It's pretty lit. It's not the most like satisfying watch, but the characters are enjoyable. It's
what do you mean by
pretty
it's not
goofy.
The most satisfying?
It's because you don't have those. It doesn't have like those big shonen like yes moments, but it never like, you know, like how like let's say like something in My Hero Academia. It's like, oh yes, like he finally joined, like he passed the exam to join the school that he's been wanting to join.
Right.
Like you know, it doesn't have these big highs, but it hits just enough where it's like, yeah.
Okay.
You know, like it's got a bit more of a comedic bone to it rather than trying to be super serious, like big emotional stakes. Like it's weirdly more of a like it's more of a comforting show because I think because all of the like all the success is made through like science rather than like sheer like will of might and overcoming these impossible odds.
Well, I suppose you're watching them grow and their society slowly like come back.
Well, yeah. So in a lot of ways, it's more. Oh, you have Senku. It's more about Senku. Senku knows what he needs to do, but will he get the things he needs in the amount of time necessary? So it's more of a race against the clock a lot of the time, and seeing the inventive ways he gets around stuff, and like how he convinces people to join his side, and
that sounds kind of cool. And like just seeing how it all comes together every time.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's almost more of like this weird slice of life shonen where it's a bit more down to earth, and it's just down to earth fun science antics. Where like sometimes you'll have like a dramatic thing happening, but it's never like the only thing that's happening.
Okay.
And it's a bit more character focused.
Question.
Yeah.
Could you possibly consider the show educational in any way? Will I learn things?
Depends on how accurate. I assume so. I don't know how accurate all the science stuff is. I'm not fact checking it, but there are definitely things you could learn from the show.
Okay.
I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but there's definitely things you probably could learn from the show, assuming that everything's accurate.
Well, there's that's there's some value.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna take that in
I don't
lieu of going to school.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's a fun watch.
Cool.
I don't know how it stands up to something like Cells at Work, which is entirely like weirdly, despite Cells at Work being like this hyperbole of the human body, it's somehow still like completely anatomically correct and scientifically correct, like on everything it's talking about.
Huh.
Like it's got a crazy amount of detail to Cells at Work. So I don't know if Doctor Stone really stands up to that. But my only big problem with Dr. Stone is that sometimes things seem a little bit too coincidental and convenient, especially considering how certain things pan out. Don't want to really talk into spoilers that much, but there's some pretty epic level convenience that happens in the story.
Right, a bit of Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I wouldn't say necessarily Deus Ex. I mean, it's hard to talk about it without like science. It has to do with stuff at the beginning of like the second core. Like it has to do with like because Seikyu like finds this like society of like primitive people, and then when it starts talking about like how that society of primitive people came to be, that's where things start getting a bit more like way too coincidental for how the things of the story panned out. Like if it feels like a bunch of narrative because it was already convenient that like, oh yes, these were the people that like this really cool scientist guy was the guy that was able to be the first one to break out of the stone, and like he's able to figure like over time able to figure things out so humanity can survive. Like it's already got some coincidences to it, but this kind of like jumps the shark on like coincidence. But it's also goofy shonen bullshit, so take that as you will.
Like some fun.
I think you would actually absolutely like adore it. It's a type of show that you could adore.
All right.
Okay. Next for a show that I'm continuing on watching this season, Fire Force. Whoop whoop.
Is it about firemen?
Fire Force is a show about. Yes, it's about firemen who put out fires that. Well, it's about a show about So, Lunch, did you listen to the Promare episode?
No.
Okay, better off that way. Terrible episode.
Oof.
So similar concepts to Promare. You have a bunch of people like just spontaneously combusting.
What?
And people getting fire powers.
Okay.
Yeah. So the entire idea of Fire Force is that there's this like weird thing going on where people are just spontaneously combusting, turning into like these fire creatures that wreak havoc, and then you have this whole fire department agency that's like that basically absolves of these threats. They go and they basically kill these fire monsters because they're causing havoc
with water or with kung fu.
With shonen fire powers. So
with fire,
there's a thing where like, yeah. So okay,
they kill the fire monsters with fire.
Yeah, so there's special people who have fire powers. You have a second generation fire users who can manipulate fire. Then you have third generation fire users who can create fire. And so then you have main character Bro Dude who creates fire from his feet, and he uses them like jet rockets from the fly around, zoom around, do like super kicks and stuff.
Okay.
And he's main character protagonist boy. He's got a tragic backstory where his family house burned down when his mother and brother were in there, and like people think he did it, but he knows he didn't do it. He knows there was like an infernal in there, or what? He knows there's shenanigans involved, so he's trying to figure out why that happened. That's why he joined the fire department to see if he can learn why it happened. And then it kind of goes from there. You're learning about these interconspiracies within the fire department, like where are the internal combustion's coming from. You learn that there's some bad actors in the fire, like in different agencies. Well, that's actually one of the cool things is the agency that main character boy, I forget his name because I'm terrible with names. The agency he joins, like their specific goal is to investigate the other agencies, and it leads to some fun stuff. The show admittedly does start off rather bad from like a writing perspective and like even a directing perspective.
Bad?
But yeah, it's pretty awfully written. Like just Not even like from like a dialogue standpoint. It's just it's not incredibly interesting what's happening at the beginning. It's kind of slow, takes its time.
That's
but not
it's
in a
such a
very interesting
ridiculous
way.
concept. You think so? Let me get this straight. So,
I know.
in a world where sometimes people catch on fire for no reason and turn into fire monsters, there is an organization of firemen that come out and they defeat the fire monsters with fire, and they have their own fire, but it's good fire. But behind the scenes, there are bad actors within the fire department that have their own fire-related conspiracies and their own vying for power to become the best at putting out fires with fire. And also, the main guy's parents died in a fire, a mysterious fire. How is the show boring?
No, only the first like few episodes, because then as they get into investigating the first agency, that's where the show just like.
How do you make this mundane? You said he flies around on fire feet.
Well, okay, so this is also in comparison to like literally the first like major like arc where it involves like the So one of the details of these agencies is that they're in relation to this church, and each like agency has to have like basically like people that do like okay. Whenever they kill like an inferno like thing, they have to like offer a prayer. So there's usually one person there specifically who offers the prayers. So there's the girl that does that, because there's a religious undertone to this. So you have like the military government part, and you have the religious part of it. So you have like these different factions.
Okay.
And different fire departments have their different allegiances to these different factions.
So who are they praying to? Satan?
The sun. They're praying to the sun.
Okay, they're sun worshippers. Got it.
Yeah. Fire theme.
I got it.
Anyways, so
Sounds
as we get into like the first as we get into fuck you. Yeah. As we get into the first agency, things get more interesting as you're actually like as I start fighting other fire users, and like the choreography, the fire effects, the animation, like the show looks phenomenal at times. Like it already had some really good cuts earlier, but the directing like around the non-fight scenes were pretty awful. But like between like the first major arc and the second major arc, those are amazing. We're in the third major arc right now, which like spoilers, like I've read the manga, so like I know the stuff that was happening beforehand, but Jesus Christ, some of the stuff is just a feast for the eyes. Like it makes me like kind of disappointed that they wasted so much time at the first few episodes rather than just getting to this stuff, because oh my god, like the show can look fantastic, has some great characters, great personalities, really interesting. Like one of the things I really like about the show is like how interesting it gets with the fire powers. Like there's like the one like leader of the one like the first agency that they go looking into, like she creates like flowers and like plants like out of like the fire, and then she uses those for her attacks and stuff.
So she makes flowers out of flame flowers?
Yeah, flowers, trees, and like and it's so beautiful to look at. Like
okay,
like, it looks good in the manga, but that they're pretty deadly when like applied to like how she uses them. But like Fire Force goes from like a passable like a show that you can just like be like, oh, you can just skip over this. Like it's got some great Sakuga, but you don't have to watch it. And to like episode 6 where it just absolutely gets fucking like insane from then on out.
Okay, all right. I think damn, we're like a couple shows in, and I'm like, my brain is so like fatigued from like taking in like all this crazy shit.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The fact that there's a religious undertone to the whole thing makes it even weirder. I'm sure it's. Yeah, no, the show is entirely weird. It's weirder to explain than it is to watch. I'm sure if I watch it, I'll be like, okay, it's by sure, this is just some fantasy.
I mean, it's
shit.
a guy.
Put it all out there.
It's by the guy. I mean, it's by the guy behind Soul Eater, and Soul Eater is pretty fucking weird.
I haven't seen Soul Eater. I have no idea what it's about.
Okay, I'll say this: Fire Force is better than Soul Eater, IMO, but that's me.
Spicy.
Okay. Going into the next. Okay. So there was the 2 shows continuing on. I guess we're going into completed shows. I'll knock one quick off the plate. Yu-Gi-Oh! Range ended last season. It was god awful. Don't watch it.
It was still going.
Why have I not marked this as? Yeah, it finished last season. It's terrible. Don't watch. Yu-Gi-Oh! Range is so boring, and the character motivations makes very little sense.
I don't know what
And
Brains
it's
is about.
trying to be smart.
Is this the one with
That's
the
a,
guy
that's
with
a
the I'm trying to think of how to describe his hair, but there's too many things happening.
it's where they go into the VR world to play card games.
VR.
It's like because playing card games with holograms isn't enough. You have to go into VR to play holograms.
Yeah, what the fuck? It already is virtual reality, but like augmented reality. If you're going into VR, then like it's a downgrade.
Yep. Anyways, Brains Brains needs its own episode. We already talked about it once. I don't think you were on that episode. Feel free to go listen to that. Also, I said I was going to talk about the shows I completed. I forgot to say that I'm just to quickly touch on the new shows. I'll do this quickly. There's Ascendance of a Bookworm. Girl dies in real world, gets reincarnated, and I don't know if it's a fantasy world or if it's just like an olden style world. But I think it's fantasy because one guy uses magic. Anyways,
for a second I thought that was like another anime title.
I know.
Girl wakes up.
But yeah, she gets isekai. She gets isekai'd into the body of a little girl, and her gimmick is that she really loves books, but her family's too poor for books in this world. And books are only wealthy people get books because books are expensive to make in like a primitive society.
Okay.
So her whole arc is like learning how to like read and write in this language and trying to make books. And it's pretty fucking adorable. Like it's a wholesome isekai. I don't know if it gets where it goes in the future, but like if you want to see a cute little girl like trying to bringing like a cute little girl who's actually like an older girl in the younger girl's body who's just loves books, is like using like knowledge she used from the previous world to like help people in this world. They can help her family in this world and just like do cool things with stuff.
I mean, if she's not in the world, she can just like plagiarize Fire Force and no one will know.
Exactly.
And
I don't know if she's been reading manga. She seems like she's more of a literature nut.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know where it's going. It's not a stellar production, but by any means. But it's wholesome. It's an incredibly wholesome show, and like I like it a lot. I'm probably gonna finish it unless if it like gets weird, like a lot of isekais do.
All right. Well, that's kind of sweet.
Yep. Anyways, the next new show from the season that I'm watching, which is the only other new show I'm watching this season so far, I've got shows to check out, but it's been rough. Babylon, Amazon Prime exclusive. So if you got Amazon Prime, watch the show. It's a psychological mystery thriller thing where you have like the public prosecutor's office in this new fictional city, trying to solve like these like mysterious murders that are being written off as suicides. What I'll say about the show, it quickly turns not into a mystery like after the twist in episode 3. Like episode 4 on is more of a thriller. Like they figure out who the bad guy is in episode 3, and then like they have to figure out how to take him down for the rest of the show, which is in its own unique way. But one of the things I can say about the show, and this is it's got some amazing direction, and it probably has one of the best directed interrogation scenes I've seen in like anime.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Like it does this whole thing in the second episode where the interrogation turns into the thing being interrogated about. Like you have the character both giving their testimony, like answering the questions, all while like doing the things that they're talking about. And it's like shifting between the interrogation and the events, like back and forth, like in really interesting ways. And it was like just that scene alone is worth watching, and that's why it's a shame that's stuck on Amazon Prime.
Right. Yeah, because honestly that kind of sounded interesting, but I don't know if Amazon Prime.
Yeah. The first episode like ends with a pretty big like twist reveal drop sort of thing, and then the second episode comes in and it's like, yeah, we're just gonna blow your mind with like this scene. Like I don't know if like the rest of the show is gonna look that good, but oh my god, like that scene on its own, without the rest of the show or any context, deserves being watched.
Wow, that's some high praise.
Yeah.
Sick.
Anyways, yeah. Do you have any? You gonna say something?
Oh, just that honestly, like that's the most interesting thing that has grabbed me that you've said about any of these shows so far.
Yeah.
Having just wanted
a
really well executed and directed interrogation scene. That sounds cool. I think you could, and I think an anime could do
Yeah.
that really well because it like animes are intense and extreme.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's also shows you just like how like bad some anime directing is when they're just giving dialogue rather than like you have these shows like sort of online that just like, oh yeah, we're gonna sit in a cafe for like 20 minutes and just talk about nothing for 20 minutes. Well, we're
Yeah,
gonna
that's the
plot
thing.
dump things for
Like
20 minutes
anime's
rather
very
than
good
showing
at
you.
these very flat scenes where like it's just all right.
Well,
Like
it's especially in light novels that are very wordy and like very like they have these scenes that could work while you're reading it, but when you're trying to actually watch it, it's like, why are you doing this? Like this, you can change things up.
yeah, they're just like I think like from a production standpoint, they see it as like a free space, so like free time, where it's like, okay, now I can prepare for the next really cool bit. When like it might honestly be better if they just like made everything a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. Uh, Anyways, I'll quickly hop to my completed shows. Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer. It's a fairly standard shonen type of show. Really likable main character. With some stellar production value in the fight scenes. It's got some of the best looking like fights. Period. Like I praised Fire Force on its fights, but what Kimetsu no Yaiba does in some of its fights are just downright looks like it belongs in a movie. There's this whole fight scene like on around episode 12 where you got this guy who can shit like he's like lives in this mansion that can shift things around. Like the rooms shift around and it uses like this CG computer animation thing and it looks better than video games.
Oh shit.
Like it looks beautiful. On the other hand, you also have some pretty bullshit CG where you have like just the character walking away and it's just a CG body on a 2D plane. Anyways, I didn't even talk about what the show's about. You got
what is this?
These so we're in a world where you have these things called like these demons, which are basically vampires. They need to feast on human flesh to survive, and if they're in the sunlight, they die.
Okay.
You have this
specific
demon going around. You have a specific demon going around turning people into demons, and one of the people that get turned and he basically visits main character's house while he's out. Eats the whole family except his younger sister and turns his younger sister into a demon.
That's greedy.
So yeah. So now we get into this conflict where main character is like, I don't want it's like, oh no, I'm being chased down by my sister who wants to eat me. Then you have this like samurai guy because there's like this league of like samurai people who
okay,
who kill who are tasked with killing the demons.
So I thought we were in the
because
modern
they can
day.
only be. It's sort of in the modern.
Okay. It is the modern day.
Like you're on like
also samurai. Got it.
Well, no, it's like the 1950s, so not modern days. I don't know the exact time frame.
But it's too late for samurais, but they're there anyway. Got it.
Yeah, well, they're not like it's yeah. So like they're not really samurais. They're called demon hunters. So they've got like these magical swords that can kill the demons if you chop their head off. But it only works if it's with these specific swords. So this demon hunter guy comes up. He's gonna kill his sister because she's turned into a demon. But like main character's guy is like, no, that's my sister. You can't kill her.
Okay.
And then it goes from there. Like he prevents him from killing her, and he escapes. And then he meets up with this trainer guy who trains him to prepare to be a demon slayer. And the whole like weird conflict of the thing is like his sister learns is basically brainwashed by hypnotized by this guy. Like by this guy, so she won't eat humans because the demons don't actually need to eat humans. Apparently,
they just like to.
But like they've got this they have this insatiable, uncontrollable urge to do so.
Okay,
but they technically don't need to. But anyways, so yeah, then you have this whole thing where the entire story basically revolves around him becoming a demon slayer and him protecting him carrying around her, trying to figure out how to turn her back from being a demon.
So this is kind of like
so
this is about conversion therapy.
Yes, it's about conversion therapy
from a very fundamental Christian perspective.
Yes, but on the other hand, one of the things I really like about the show is that it doesn't make the demons out to be these monsters. Especially when it deals with some of them ones that have been around a bit more.
No,
yes, there are some monsters
in the sin, not the sinner, you know.
Yeah, Well, it's like a lot of these guys like have like these like backstories and these like there's still human elements about them, and it's I think one of the messages of the story is yeah, these are monsters going around killing people and they have to eat people to survive, but they still like have a heart. Like they're still like they don't choose to be like this. They're like, you know, it's like they were forcibly made put it into this situation, but they're still like like humans with flaws and like personalities and
Yeah, they
stuff.
do have flaws. Like, for example, they love fucking eating your family.
Well, this one guy is like
Very human.
like this one guy's like just really it's like he's like an author who got really upset that he was trying to get his work published before he turned into a demon, but his everybody kept turning his work down, like his novel down.
Okay.
And then you got like another guy who's like never had a family, so he's obsessed. He's like obsessed with this like creating this false family dynamic with other demons. So because since he was like I think he was like an orphan, so he never knew what it was like to have a family.
Right. Okay.
So he's pretty fucked up, but you understand why he's like that. And it feels like the show is like Demon Slayer is much more concerned with showing like there's more to like these monsters than them just being monsters. And the main character kind of shows that like he doesn't feel like that's one of the nice things like about Tanjiro as a main character is that he feel like he like despite knowing that he's killing these things for the right reasons, like he still feels sad that he's ending these lives that were like he's the good-natured shonen protagonist who has a heart. And he's not just cold-hearted like, oh, I've got to take down bad people.
Okay.
And to be fair, he does relate a bit with that because he has a sister who's a demon who's also not going around killing people.
Yeah, well,
like you can see it kind of from both perspectives.
Now.
Yeah.
So does he go around and he like meets these characters with these tragic backstories and then he kills them?
Well,
but feels bad about it.
Well, it's like he's given missions from the Demon Hunter Corps. Like these people are like these monsters are still killing people and stuff, so it's not like they're like they need to be killed because they're still killing people. Let's be real. But it's more of like sad about the circumstances, sad about like why do we have to be in this situation, sort of thing. Like they didn't ask to be demons. They didn't ask to be like this.
Okay.
In some ways, it's kind of similar to that zombie dynamic. It's like no one asked to become a zombie, but like zombies are pretty fucking awful.
I mean, it's kind of weird because, like, you know, zombies are. They don't have to be zombies, but like they're not really a person. They're not treated as a person after they're zombified.
Well, they lose their. Well, I think that's where the interesting dynamic is. It's like with zombies, even vampires and werewolves, is like they lose their humanity in the process. But
these guys demons, keep their humanity. They just also love to eat people and can't help themselves.
More like they have to. Like there's multiple reasons you have like the first they're compelled to do so by being demons. It's not like, oh yes, I want to eat human. It's like oh my god, I need to eat a human.
It's I don't know. It
there's
seems
a bit
weird.
of
I don't.
I know. Well, it's like that. It's like zombies don't like automatically like, oh, I want to eat brain. It's just a zombie's compelled to go eat brain. A vampire doesn't like.
I understand the concept, but
like,
I just find like the drama of it to be a bit like Look, granted, I haven't watched the show, but like it feels almost like a contrived tragedy. It's like, man, wouldn't it be really bad? Wouldn't it be so tragic if somebody had to eat people just because someone bit them and now they have to, and now you got to kill them? Well, it's like because they're not like they're not killing people as a culmination or a result of their tragic backstory. They just also have a tragic backstory. The real problem is that they got bitten by some asshole.
Well, it's specifically like this one guy going around turning people into demons who've like for his own whatever. Like it's not even like, oh yes, coincidentally this monster came up and bit me. It's like, no, I was pretty much specifically chosen by this one asshole to turn me into a demon.
Okay, I mean, I just like I guess I get that it's sad, but like it doesn't. I'm trying to find like a parallel to something real, and I can't seem to really find one. Like.
Well,
and so
that's part of I guess that's sort of where the horror in it lies. It's like it in some ways it does fall back onto some of those horror tropes where you lose like.
Okay, so it's kind of meant to be just like a bit disturbing.
It's supposed to be disturbing and horrifying, and
I guess I
Like,
should have guessed since people are
like
being eaten, but like,
yeah,
because I
it's
guess
very much
it kind of creates this situation where it's like this uncaring universe just kind of unjustly made these people all fucked up. Now I gotta put them down. I guess I don't know.
yeah. I mean, that's what horror is basically. Is this unjust universe allowed this situation to happen?
Yeah, I get.
Like,
I guess I understand.
and the other sense of the horror is, Andrew, I'm back to the comparison. Like, imagine like if you were like if you got turned into a zombie, but you still had your consciousness, but you had no control of your body in the zombie form, and you were forced to eat all your friends and loved ones without being able to do anything about it.
Yeah, that would suck.
I think that's more of like what it's trying to go for. But as I said, like part of what makes the show really special is like its phenomenal like action scenes. Like it looks breathtaking at times.
Sure. Cool.
I just wish it looked that breathtaking all the time.
I feel like if you want an anime experience that looks breathtaking all the time, you gotta watch a movie.
Yeah, but that's fair. Speaking of which, the next season of it's going to be just a movie, so hopefully that whole thing looks good. Anyways, let me move on so we can finish things up. I'm going to quickly touch on Lord Elmaloy II, Rail Zeppelin, which is just another Fate spinoff. It's basically Fate Murder Mystery. If you don't watch Fate, you're not going to get anything out of it. It's pretty much a direct sequel to Fate Zero, where Waver's older and he's solving mysteries. It doesn't really work as a mystery series because it relies on a lot of magic bullshit that you kind of already need to know from Fate. Otherwise, all of it just comes as like things are being pulled out of the ass.
Got it.
There's some pretty nice looking fight scenes. It's by the same people who did Recreators. So yeah, it looks great at times, but it's full of Fate bullshit. And if you're not into Fate, you won't be into Lord Elmaloy. That's basically all I have to say about it because it bastardized like. Everything about like every iteration on Fate bastardizes Fate just a little bit, and that's part of what makes it fun. But yeah, I can't recommend Lord Elmaloy II unless if you're already into the Fate hellhole.
Right, it seems very niche. Really, yeah. If you're not into it, you just have no idea what's happening.
Well, it's like even if you've watched Fate Zero, you still don't have enough context to watch Lord Elmaloy II, and this is like a direct sequel to Fate Zero. So yeah, just a bunch of bullshit.
Gotcha.
Now,
I guess it'll be like trying to watch Dragon Ball Heroes without knowing a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Oh god, Dragon Ball Heroes.
No, I've got no. For the record, I'm gonna just touch on Vinland Saga for 1 second. It's good. I need to catch up on it. I'll maybe talk about it more next season. I just haven't had much time. I haven't been able to bring myself back to watch it, but it's good. Blame Amazon Prime just not being Verve or Crunchyroll for me to be in my playlist of stuff that I keep watching. That's basically it. Now I'm down to 2 shows where I think I've got the unpopular opinion on, which is Fruits Basket and Given, which both kind of suffer the same problem.
I think I remember you talking about Fruits Basket a while ago, and I just can't get over the fact that it's not called Fruit Basket. The fact that it's Fruits Basket is just so perfectly Japanese.
There's a reason why I chose to save these 2 for last, because I would talk for an hour about these. Fruits Basket, biggest problem.
Its name?
It's directed... Well, yeah. So, Fruits Basket is generally a kind of doesn't know what it wants to be. It's a show where you have this tragic family of people who turn into zodiac things. But it's also got this love triangle between the main character and these 2 guys that are part of that family. And the best description I can give about Fruits Basket is it's tragedy cry porn. Every character in the story has a tragic backstory, and every episode and most of every episode is dealing with each individual character's tragic backstory, and it ends with main character girl who can do no wrong saying the right words and making that person cry and like learn some lesson.
Wow.
The show does genuinely look great, but it's got its priorities all wrong. So there was a Fruits Basket adaptation years, like I think over a decade ago, that never finished the entire story, but was directed in a completely different way. My number one biggest issue with Fruits Basket, and it's not even the main girl who is pretty. It's a Kanazawa character, but probably one of the more obnoxious ones that I've heard her play. She literally she's very Mary Sue-ish. Like even when she does something wrong, everybody's like, "Oh, that's so adorable that she did that wrong," or she does something wrong, but it turns out to be right in the end. Which can work. Don't get me wrong, that can work. Like I feel like there's a lot of stories that are ripped from this concept in that sense, where you have like this kind of like pure little angel that everybody just loves. But what it comes back to is everything is so sad all the time. And because of that, when the tragic things hit, I feel nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because it's just, you have this overwhelming sense of just, this is a sad show throughout the whole thing. Which, in contrast to the older adaptation of it, treated it more of like a slice of life comedy at times. Like just compare, like looking side by side some of the scenes, like it's night and day. Like there's so much energy and life in the old adaptation behind the comedy scenes, where it's like, okay, I can see myself laughing at this, like this being a dramedy where I laugh at this and it disarms me. So later on, when we have this tragic thing, like I'm in the complete emotional flow of it. A lot of the humorous scenes in this adaptation just come off as awkward and uncomfortable.
Yeah, you need a contrast. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think in general, having sadness needs to stand in contrast to something to hit as high as it could, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's possible just to make something that's depressing the whole time, but like if it's a series, like maybe you want to have a bit more balance. Like I think a movie can get away with being sad the whole time.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's like, well, it's because like, but the sadness doesn't really build onto anything. Where in a movie, it's like a sad movie. It's like things just get progressively sadder.
Right.
Here, it's like, oh, you have start of episode, introduce new character, learn sad thing about that character, go through, and then main character says the right thing to make that person cry and realize that they need to do something better with their life.
Right. Yeah. Like
that's essentially almost every episode.
A formula kind of ruins the whole thing, doesn't it? You know what kind of reminds me of, like, this is a bizarre example, but there's like these really weird shitty movies where like amateur movies that this guy makes, where he always makes himself like an alien or something, or like somebody comes down to like punish humanity for doing everything wrong, or it's like it just feels like I don't know, someone just like, it's like a straw man or something, just like arrogantly like throwing down their worldview. Where it's like, here's this character who like obviously agrees with everything I agree with, who comes in and tells everyone what they should be doing with their lives and not be sad. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, like
it seems like kind of a sanctimonious idea for a show.
Well, I think things like in general could have worked better. Just like I don't know, like somebody, like if you were to take an individual episode out of context, it could be fine, or you could find something good, or you could relate to the story. But watching it week after week, the same thing happening every week, it's like there's absolutely no tension. And then you have the big twist on the last episode, which has like was sort of foreshadowed, but not in a productive way. So then you have this like big weird thing happen with one of the characters that makes no sense in the lore of the show because it wasn't really discussed in that way. Like, there was no inclination that something like this could have happened with one of the characters. You're already dealing with magical things with people turning into animals, but it kind of jumps the shark on, like, the last 2 episodes. That's all I'm going to say.
Jumps the shark? And it sounded like you didn't like it to begin with.
Yeah. Well, jumps the shark and shark in, like, the internal...
Yeah, it's like
there's 24.
Completely...
There's 25 episodes, but this is just the first season.
So you have 25 episodes of this?
I don't... Yeah.
See, I can't help but once again feel like I'm in that place where I'm like, why do you do this to yourself?
So this is the specific case where people praise the show, like praise Fruits Basket to like it's like known as like one of like a great show. And I'm just like, you're just watching to see when it gets good. Like, okay, maybe this is what people are talking about. Maybe this is what people are talking about. And you're watching every single episode and you're like, what the fuck are people talking about? And then at the same time, you kind of can't pull your eyes away. It's like, how can people like this? How can people cry to this? How can people feel anything about this? Like, it almost becomes like a fascinating... It almost becomes a studious, fascinating watch.
I got you.
I can't really say the next thing for... it's kind of the same thing with the next show, Given. Like, it's just something. This is like was like people were calling like the sleeper hit. People loved this show. I don't get it. It's basically gay boys make a rock band. Basically, but it's you got one like normal high school guy that's good looking, and then you have another one with a tragic backstory. But he's like the quiet autistic kid who doesn't like say much. He's like traumatized because of something that happened in his past. But the show takes like, which I'll say this, I think Given would have worked much better as a movie rather than watching weekly. It might be a more enjoyable watching it all at once rather than like watching it waste its time every single week, doing a lot of like okay, so the story of Given, the entire like when you actually boil down the characters and motivations and stuff, has like should be good. Like it should be like, oh yeah, this is a good tragic like healing story about someone who had like this tragic thing happen to them and they're engaging with society, they're finding love again. But it kind of ends up coming off more as like it feels like its priorities are all focused on the wrong thing. It's a lot of times it feels like, oh, we're gonna focus like it doesn't know if it wants to be a band show, it doesn't know if it wants to be like this gay love story or if it wants to be this tragic backstory, like this, like, oh, this is helping this person with this tragic backstory. And the parts of the show that really emphasize this for me is when it's just spending so much time just doing like slow panning shots of the scenery, not really doing much with the actual story, like adapting so little of the story in like one episode.
Yeah, I think that's just like a production thing. I have trouble imagining that's like a creative decision.
But that's the thing. Like, this is based off a manga. I haven't read the manga. I feel like a lot of the problems with the story could easily be focused by some more internal monologue from certain characters, reading it rather than sitting there for like minutes on end, like wasting so much time just looking at scenery. And some of the episodes like focus on like these other characters and their potential like gay romance, but like one's already in a relationship and one doesn't know. And it adds absolutely nothing to this main story of these people. And when the story's already going so slow, it feels like it's just wasting so much more time when what we like it's like we should have like this thing we learn about the character's backstory like shouldn't have been treated as a mystery. This should have been like something within the first couple of episodes so we could actually relate to him rather than having like traumatized Larry just sitting around being mopey and like seeing some sparks of life come into him when he's playing music. Like it's hard to care about the characters when you don't know enough about them for too long. Like if you're playing a mystery act for too long and then all of a sudden you get to like these like few like episodes like 8, 9, and 10 where you start learning everything about his backstory, but so little has happened beforehand. I just kind of wish I just saw this stuff first.
Right, because this is what like, actually allowed you to empathize with the character.
Yeah, it's like you have like this whole emotional scene where he's singing, like he's worked up the courage to sing on stage, and like you see all this emotion heart is showing us like all the details of this backstory that we've been missing from before. And I'm like, God damn it, like I actually feel something towards this. I just wish I had these feelings for the rest of the story.
Yeah, like, it's not like, this is like fun to retroactively make a story a story. I wonder if like because you said that you segued into this by talking about stories that like are popular, but you don't really understand why. And I wonder if this is partially because this is like being like kind of a gay romance is maybe something that is like
I think it's a lot. It's like it's a very slow.
I feel like people might be stopped for this kind of content in.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. It's a slow slice of lively like gay story. But at times I feel like it's just kind of fetishizing the gay. It's like, oh, of course we have to have these other characters also being gay because of course every male character in a show has to be gay. Then there's like a lot of gay stories, like especially yaoi, have very problematic senses of very problematic in sense of consent. There's a lot of dubious consent. very awkward relationships, people being forced into things, a lot of questioning. Oh, I can't be gay. Oh no, I can't be gay. The and the even so, this show doesn't completely escape that, because after that big like singing scene, like it's not as bad as like some other shows make it, but there's a point where it's like the one main character just steals a kiss from the other guy, and it's really forced, really awkward. And yes, it comes back later. It's like, oh, like I think I love him. Like, well, the guy that was kissed is like, oh, I think I love him. But at that moment, it's like that was an incredibly inappropriate time to kiss him. It's like you've had no indication that you've had no even conversation about you two liking each other. Like, it's been very one-sided from the start. This guy's been traumatized in the past. You don't even know if he actually likes you or if it's just one-sided. And yet he comes from this big emotional thing where he's crying about this past relationship he has, like on stage, and then you just kiss him out of nowhere, and it's really weird.
That is
really
weird. That is a weird time. Someone's talking about their ex.
It's like out of,
and then you kiss them.
It's like I would have like. It's like it's one of those things. It's like I could have seen him like hugging him and like giving a really strong and passionate like hug, but to make it a kiss and nothing but a kiss is just really weird.
Right. I think this is probably this is probably about like being like an okay execution of a thing that people are really missing in like anime content. Yeah. Like just just like a male gay romance story is probably not super common.
I guess that's just my general rule of thumb is viewing it this way. If that was a girl he kissed like that, that would have been seen as incredibly problematic and rapey. That's sort of where I stand. A lot of this yaoi stuff gets away with dubious consent because it's two guys. Where
it's like this is all anyone has.
If it was,
so they're just like, all right, we'll take it.
Yeah. So that kind of like soured that scene for me. Like oh, we had this like really strong scene and it's soured by this forced kiss that.
It seems like it should be an important moment.
Yeah. But I don't know how the manga is. They're like, I could see this being one of those shows that cuts out a lot of like inner monologue and a lot of dialogue to fit this show format. A lot of shows like to do that, where it's like it's trying to be a bit more artsy and like melodramatic rather than actually telling the story. But I always give the benefit of the doubt of what was adapted rather than what not. It could be trying to do more of a more show not tell sort of thing, and I don't think it worked in the same way that it should have. I don't think the production value was up there to even be able to show it in a
if that's what they were,
productive
if that's what
way.
Happened, I think they probably just revealed how weirdly problematic the original thing is, because like maybe in the manga it's like by looking into both of their heads that they both like each other at that point already, but like and maybe he's even thinking, man, I wish he would kiss me or something, but when the weird knowing that they can't read each other's minds, like just to go for it is like, whoa.
No, but the really weird thing is like it's explained like around that time that whenever he was with that guy, whenever the two guys were together, the guy with the traumatic backstory was seeing his past lover there with him. It's incredibly weird because it's like this guy's reminding him of his past lover, but he's seeing his past lover actually there with him, like seeing the ghost of him.
Whoa! Okay, so he's got like a mental thing happening.
Yeah, it's like this. This guy is clearly going through some severe trauma from what happened, and like it's very clear that he's kind of broken and he's kind of recovering. And for the one guy to steal that kiss there seems really gross. Like
I think what this guy needs right now is a relationship.
It's like
okay, that's certainly a call.
Yeah.
He just needs a new boyfriend.
That's
like.
Anyways, I think that's the last show. My computer's running low. I'm running late on time. I'm already way over.
Well, at least you managed to get in a conversation about weird, problematic sexual things within this anime roundup.
I mean, it's the theme of bros in a landfill. Everything's problematic.
That's right,
including the show,
especially us.
Anyways, this has been Bros in a Landfill signing off.
Anime.
Hopefully. Woo!
We did it.